7-1 sounds good, but no game on Saturday certainly does not. Talking Miami football here with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Head on over there, stateoftheu.com on SB Nation for your Miami football needs. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm tired, man. Ugh.
Tired?
Yeah, just long day at the secret day job today. Long day at the secret day job tomorrow. Luckily, I was able to get a little quick power nap in, so I just woke up a minute ago. So hey, we'll power through. But
all right, yes,
yeah,
give us an hour.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm already up, so I'm going to do that. But yeah, obviously, a couple things to talk about. So yeah.
So this football team was precariously close to not being able to get off the plane in Blacksburg, Virginia, and be ready to play a football game based on what I hear in terms of the losses. So they just skated by from a roster standpoint to be able to make it on the field, get that 1-point win, get out of town at 7-1. But unfortunately, not the case against Georgia Tech, as we're seeing across the country. It's probably holding fairly steady in regards to the percentage of games that aren't being able to be played. But hopefully the next time we see the Canes on the field will be December 5th.
Yeah. So, the number of players that you need to have to play a game is 53 scholarship players. And, I kind of workshopped that live on the air when I was with Joey and Mike with the ACC, the BC basketball conference football podcast. But yeah, man, it was close. We were close to that 53 last week. Manny Diaz said it, like there's stories, or he'd even mentioned, kind of tongue in cheek, but it's true. He's like, hey, we got guys back, so we won't have to have grad students like standing in on first team offense or defense, because it's like they were standing in on first team. You know what I mean? Or in other positions as well. So there was that. But I mean, yeah, if you're talking about, needing 53 or more, if Miami was at 76-ish scholarships heading into the year, you have 4 guys or 3 guys who opt out, 2 guys who transfer, so you're at 71. You take away 13 from that, who missed the game because of COVID and or contact tracing, and you're at 58, and maybe even closer to the number than that. So, I mean, you're within a literal handful of players of having the baseline number of guys to be able to play. I mean, you even had the point where Navon Donaldson, who was redshirting this year to recover from knee surgery and to get healthy for the future, he was the number 6 offensive lineman last week. Like, if anybody got injured, he was going to make his season debut. Obviously, I think that he's in a position where it might not have been the optimal choice to have him out there, but he was medically cleared to do that, so it wasn't like we were doing anything medically unsafe with him. But I mean, the fact is, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a guy who's not going to play this year. We've already decided that. He's already decided that. And it was like, you're one snap away from having that guy play, 2 offensive lineman starters, defensive tackle, linebacker, and then other rotation guys. I mean, it was down to the bare end, like bare bitter end of, do we have enough players, scholarship players, and especially like along the offensive line. Usually you play, 8, 9 offensive linemen depending on rotation and injury. We played 5 because that's what we had, really. So yeah, it was very close to, Friday morning, like Manny Diaz has said, like Blake James said, in his interview on the radio and everything. It was Friday morning, and there was serious debate in the Hecht Athletic Center if Miami was going to get on a plane to fly up there. So, like, very serious business. So, yeah, was able to get through that last game. The last couple of games missing an increasing number of guys. So it was 11 against NC State, and he was 13, last week against Virginia Tech. And then the decision was made on Monday that basically, it was worse, or the COVID situation was worse with Miami. And then the ACC announced, the rescheduling subsequent to that. So, yeah, we're in that situation. And Manny Diaz said, it's a everybody's dealing with the coronavirus program. It's not just our football program or anything. Like, we all have that, but unfortunately, our football program in Miami has been very impacted by that, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
Nate561 is asking a question that segues very well in alignment with the question that I was going to ask to start out the night. Mm-hmm. So, in analyzing the opponents on the schedule, I've at least made the analysis, and it seems like you generally agree that we can separate Clemson from everybody else. Then we've got this bucket of teams, North Carolina State, Pitt, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Louisville, on down the line, that are right in the same category. They beat each other on a weekly basis in the ACC. They are the 50th best team in the country collectively, something in that range. Miami continues to win all the games, but rarely do they look impressive in doing that, and they're beating most of those teams, just about every one of them, by one score. But in this latest effort against Virginia Tech, put the conditions of the roster that you just outlined, and there has to be some serious consideration given to the strength of the team in numbers and volume, and football being an attrition sport, of being able of that compromising the effort, and maybe us having a bit more leniency in our evaluation of the team in that particular game. So I'll start with that.
Yeah, I agree. You're missing multiple starters in multiple positions in the last 2 weeks. Like I said, 2 offensive linemen, a defensive lineman, and a linebacker starters alone last week. So yeah, I mean, it is a next man up mentality. It's just like, hey, whoever's here is here, and whoever's not is not. And then we're just kind of go forward with that. But it's like the thing from the North Carolina State game that everybody was kind of talking about, of like, hey, well, if you take away De'Aaron King's rushing numbers, ... It's like, you can do that math, but like, the point of fact is De'Aaron King was on the field. He had those rushing numbers. So it's not something that we can ignore. In the inverse here, you can evaluate the game and the team based upon who was there. And I mean, yeah, that's a thing to be done, but you cannot overlook the elephant in the room, or the elephant's not in the room, and just say, hey, like, we're missing 1 out of every 5 scholarship players or more, depending on the game. You know what I mean? Like, it's, it's a factor. And it simply is. And, I obviously, in the good, the bad, and the ugly, I have made the decision to evaluate who plays, and then maybe write some narrative about, the fact of who's not playing. But it has to be part of the consideration. It just does. And, I just think that the 2017 team and this team, they're similar in that, you basically try to take away the run and then make the quarterback beat you. We have a better quarterback this year. So when tasked with, okay, you have to hit these vertical throws, Louisville, hit them. Virginia, hit them. Virginia Tech, hit them. When the rubber met the road in 2017, Malik Rozier was not able to do that. So are there similarities? Yes. I think that the 2017 defense overall was better. I think that this 2020 defense is able to step up and have the performance to the level that you want it to be, especially in the fourth quarters, because this is a fourth quarter team. This is another fourth quarter domination on defense. That 2017 team was more consistent in their domination on defense. But yeah, I think that if you, increase the offense a little bit this year and decrease the defense, I think that's how it equals out. So are there similarities? Yeah, because you're still going to compete against Miami the same way. Press man coverage, crash to the run, hit some vertical throws. If you hit them, cool, you win. If you don't, it's 2017 Pittsburgh, and they went the 10-0 undefeated season, because Pittsburgh is not going to change. They have not changed. They did the same thing this year that they did last year when we had KJ Osborne step out of a tackle and win the game on a slant. They did the same thing in 2018, 2017. They do the same things. It's just we were more successful on the other side this year. So, that little bit of a difference, I think, is the difference.
I'm getting myself reacquainted with the 2017 team, which I remember all these games, but I could have recited the last 3 to 4 easily. But in terms of the order of the games, Florida State was a very talented team coming off a very successful run through 2016. That particular team only went 7-6. They had the DeAndre Francois injury in game 1. And that, of course, was a 24-20 win, your first in this string of 4 consecutive against the Seminoles. So that was a tight win. They came down to the wire. The Georgia Tech 4th down. Who was it along the sideline that caught the 4th down play, the one-handed tip?
It was Georgia Tech. It was on his back. The legend himself from the Florida State game, Darrell Langham, back-to-back weeks.
Oh, that's right, back-to-back. So there was that. There was Syracuse, a team that was really scrappy, came down to Hard Rock. That was a great game, 27-19. That was close. North Carolina was awful. And 2017, yeah, they weren't that awful. Anyway, but they were pretty bad.
But that was the game that we were trailing at the half.
Yes.
And had to dial up that double move on the first play of the second half. And luckily, Jeff Thomas or Malik Rozier hit Jeff Thomas. But that was a game against a bad, 2017 North Carolina team, like you said. And then, boom, you hit that. And then all of a sudden things start rolling. But you do what the game plan was for a half, and Miami's losing that game. And like, okay, did he make the play there, the throw? Yes, but luck ran out.
Then they put it together for 2 consecutive weeks against Virginia Tech and Notre Dame.
Yes, the pinnacle, the Saturday night primetime games. Both of those games are great. You have Travis Homer getting loose early against Virginia Tech, and then just the sheer domination and destruction on November the 11th on Veterans Day against Notre Dame that year. Yeah.
I've got to think that game, depending on how this season concludes, that game is the high watermark for this program going back how far?
Yeah, no, it is. We have not eclipsed that. That was it. I mean, it sounds crazy to say now. I get that. But in that moment, on that week in 2017, Miami had as good an argument as any team in the country to be number 1. Honestly and truly, because you had a top 5-10 ranked Notre Dame team who came in. You blow the doors off of them. Alabama, what they were doing and everything. I think they had another bye week as compared to us. They hadn't played somebody of the caliber of Notre Dame on the other side of their schedule, even though some of the other teams obviously maybe were a little bit better than some of the other teams that Miami played, but legitimately had a claim to be the number 1 team in America that week following that game. You flip Jaron Williams that week from Kentucky. It was an electric atmosphere. It was on-campus game day for the first time ever, because every other game day had been at the Orange Bowl or at Hard Rock Stadium. Actually, no, it hadn't even been at Hard Rock Stadium. It had all been at the Orange Bowl previously. But, you go there. You got Drake doing the music video. He's up at the Shalala Center in the cutout up top. You got Brett. I mean, everything with that, you're overlooking the lake. You got the new student center, the new rack. You got the new music library in the background with the all glass windows, the whole thing. You can see my old dorm across Lake Osceola there. You got Eaton, the residential college. You got the brand new UC patio that they done redid. You got the Olympic pool in the back. They're doing swimming and diving practice off the back. People over there, the students are just hanging out because why? I know people. It's a top 50 institution, and I love my alma mater and everything, and it's a wonderful degree, but it's still suntan you. Why? Because we live where you vacation. So they're still out there vacationing during regular, listen, it was everything. It was everything. That was, it would take me a while to think of a week in comparison, and it had to almost been when I was in undergrad. So you're talking 2003. You know what I mean? Maybe 2002. It had been like that. But that's what that week was. And that's why it was so impressive, because it felt so cathartic. It felt like Hard Rock Stadium felt like the old Orange Bowl. That 2000 Miami, Florida State, the first game that I ever went to between those rivals. 2003 against Florida, when I was all the way in the next to the last section in the student section underneath the overhang, and you saw it doing this up top, and I'm looking at that thing like, I don't know if this structure is going to hold, because the opening kickoff, Devin Hester, just said on Wednesday, because I had friends on the team and everything, he said, look, we get the ball, coach, get the ball, open the kickoff, I'm taking it back. Okay, Devin. He's like, no. We win the coin toss, take the ball, because I'm going to the crib. So you already heard this around campus. Devin talking about, hey, don't let them kick to me. I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. And then you see him taking it back. Like, I don't know that there's another time in the last 14, 15 years that compares to that game against Notre Dame. That's what it was. That's how incredible it was. And then it all came crashing down. Things fell apart right after that. And I mean, look, we've won some games. Like, I'm not saying that we haven't, but that was different. That felt like Miami. It felt like the U. It felt like getting towards being back. And then the Pittsburgh game happened, and well, to quote Drake again, nothing was the same. And
we will see this year.
I don't know that there's an opportunity. I mean, honestly, like it. I mean, no, I mean to get like that. Can you win some games? Cool. If you get to the ACC championship game, but like the math to get there is tricky, at best. Hopefully you're able to win, some more games and things like that. If the Canes had beaten Pittsburgh, they would have been ranked number one. Exactly. But we had a case even going into that week to be number one, and then we pissed it away. But I mean, yeah, it's a lot. And, I was thinking about it, so like these games have been rescheduled the last 3 of the season. So it would be December the 5th at Wake Forest, December 12th home against North Carolina, and then December 19th home against Georgia Tech. You're only going to play that Georgia Tech game if the result of that game, win or loss, does affect who would be in the ACC championship game. So if Miami were to be eligible for the ACC championship game and the result of that game, win or loss, did not impact who would go to the ACC championship game, then Miami would not play Georgia Tech, and then Miami would play the ACC championship game. But now let's talk about it. What would have to happen for that game not to impact the standings either way, win or loss? That means that Clemson's going to have to lose twice. You know what I mean? Because they've already – Miami has to win out first of all.
Yeah. They have to lose once.
No. No, they have to lose twice, because if they lose once and Miami were to lose to Georgia Tech, then Clemson would hold the tiebreaker. So that means that Georgia Tech, that game would affect the stand. So that means Clemson would have to lose 2 times and Miami win out for us not to have – or because you have to consider the losing proposition for Miami, right? Am I wrong?
Wait a minute. You're trying to get Miami to the ACC championship game.
I'm trying to get Miami to the ACC championship game.
Then why are you playing out a scenario in which you lose a game?
No. But what I'm saying is the scenario for playing Georgia Tech on the 19th.
Oh, okay.
The result of that game cannot impact the ACC championship game's standings.
Okay. Because it's played on the same weekend.
Because it's played on the same weekend.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right. So the only way
I was looking up 2017 rankings.
Right. No, I get it.
I missed the beginning of your spiel.
Right.
My bad.
So if Clemson had 2 losses, then potentially the Georgia Tech Miami game could impact, because if Miami were to lose and have 2 losses also, then Clemson would win because of the tiebreaker. So now that means that Clemson has to have even more losses. So as if Miami were to lose, the tiebreaker would not be in effect, which means Clemson would have to lose 2 more times this regular season and have 3 ACC losses for this game then not to count toward. Or you have Clemson win out and Notre Dame lose like a couple 3 times as well. So it's a tough lift. It's asking a lot for these other teams. One who's undefeated in conference and one who's once beaten in conference, only lost to the undefeated team and has beat you. It's a lot of machinations to get Miami there to the point where the Georgia Tech game would not have any impact on those standings. So the clear way or the easy way is really to have Clemson lose twice. Easy mathematically, probably not easy in reality. So more likely than not, the Georgia Tech game would be played on that 19th, since Miami would probably not be eligible because Clemson would have the tiebreaker if Miami were to win out and Clemson were to do the same, or even lose another game because you would have to play that Georgia Tech game in that case. Because again, if Clemson had 2 losses, they would then hold the tiebreaker against Miami with 2 losses. If that were to be the scenario. But yeah, I mean, you could. But yeah, even if Clemson had 2 losses, you would still have to play the Georgia Tech game and win it, and then it would, be 2 losses versus 1. So there's a lot going on, and I know that it seems like a lot, but basically you need Clemson to lose twice, and I don't see that happening. The other part of it is I don't necessarily think that we're going to play all 3 of those games anyway. I just think that what we're seeing locally and nationally is an uptick in coronavirus cases. Just in general, let alone, regarding the Miami Hurricanes or whatever football team around. And I don't think that Miami is going to play all of the remaining games on the schedule. I just don't think that that's going to be a thing that happens. Maybe things turn around again and they get it under control. But me, myself personally, yeah, I just don't think that we're going to see Miami play all of the games that are still left on the schedule this year. I just don't.
Okay, let me see if I can work this through. So on the date of December 5th, that is Miami's next game. That
Correct.
is also, if we need to assume all the games are going to be played, which they probably won't, but we have to work with that right now.
Mm-hmm.
That is the date of Clemson's final game of the season against Virginia Tech. So let's say if
so we'll know within 3 weeks. We'll know soon.
And this is most likely the game that Clemson is going to lose. They play Florida State and Pitt before that. So most likely Virginia Tech's got the best shot in Blacksburg to beat Clemson.
Of those 3, yes.
Okay, I agree. So Clemson loses that game. Otherwise, our conversation's null and void. They have to lose that game or a game, but that's the most likely. So that drops Clemson to however many games they're playing in the
9 and 2.
So that drops Clemson to 9-2.
9-2, 8-2 in the league. Yeah,
8-2 in the league. Clemson's 8-2 in the ACC. Miami currently sits at 7-1. They would be winning a game against, or 6-1. I'm sorry. Yeah. Miami's 6-1 currently in the ACC. So they would go to 7-1 with a win against whomever they play on the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 7-1. Clemson's 8-2. And then on the 12th, Miami plays again.
Carolina. Yep.
So they win that game. They go to 8-1.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing Notre Dame in the ACC championship game.
And because you still have to play the Georgia Tech game because you have to remove the chance of losing. So then
because play it like that.
Yeah, that I'm just reading what the ACC said. It said if the Miami Georgia Tech game does not impact who goes to the ACC championship game, if you're at that point after beating Wake and Carolina on the 12th, and you're tied, and you're at 8-1 in the league, and Clemson's at 8-2, presuming that they lose to Virginia Tech, then you have to play that Georgia Tech game on the 19th. Because if we lose that game, Clemson goes. If we win that game, we go.
How do you penalize a team for a game that's going to have to have been played on the same day as the championship game?
Welcome to the wonderful world of coronavirus. And trust and believe.
I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
The only reason I can understand it to a certain extent in this scenario is because Clemson beat Miami head-to-head. So I give it a little bit of leeway there. But if these teams if this was Miami and Notre Dame, let's say, in this scenario, and they don't play, then I go with winning percentage, unless there's some ridiculous outbreak for one team where they only play 3 games. I go with winning percentage, and one team lost 2 games. I'm
Right.
flabbergasted.
I hear you. But again, that last game, and we've seen these things happen.
I know
you got to go and you got to win it on the 19th. And then who knows when you're going to have the ACC championship game, because they're already trying to say we're hard in like 100% on the 19th. But then, so you're going to remove Miami from contention. And then, I mean, hypothetically, in this scenario, you could have Miami at 9-1 in the league and Clemson at 8-2 in the league. But that ninth win came against Georgia Tech on the day of the ACC championship game, with Clemson then playing in Charlotte against Notre Dame. That could potentially, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know. And it's tough. And that's why, we're saying, okay, root for Notre Dame. Oh, sorry, root for Clemson against Notre Dame, because that gives you a little bit of that leeway in that path, forward if, they were to drop another game or something like that. But unless the ACC does something where they say, okay, we're going to, pending the results of the 19th, if this were to come together, and obviously the first thing is Clemson has to lose once, if not twice, and Miami doesn't lose again, and again, pending that they play all these games. There's a lot. So it's, possible, like people are saying, that you could have a 1 or 2 loss conference season, go to the Power 6 bowl game, if you get there, but not go to the ACC championship game, even with the percentage to do so, just because of the way that the tiebreaker and the whole schedule situation and everything is. This is a coronavirus spaghetti Western mess. It's not linear. It's very circuitous, and those circuitous routes are tied up all in each other. It's a knot. It's a whole lot.
I missed that. I don't agree with it. So then you have to root for Notre Dame to lose 2 games. Could go that route.
I mean, I root for them to lose all the games, sure. But I mean, they could lose 2, and then Clemson wins out, and then Miami wins out. But
so
that would, but that would still probably have to have the Georgia Tech game played, because pending this, okay, if Miami lost, which one are we going to take between Notre Dame and Miami to go up against Clemson? If that were, so I just. That's where logically I get to, and maybe I need to put all this on paper to kind of clarify my thoughts further.
I understand it now. I just
I hear you. I'm just like
I don't agree with it. I understand it.
Right. I'm just saying. Maybe if I put it on paper, I could find a different way that like logically manipulates it, so it's like, okay, well, just Miami will just go straight through, or it could potentially go straight through after 2 games on the 5th and the 12th, not having to play Georgia Tech on the 19th. It's possible, and I'm just missing it, so it's maybe like a puzzle or something where I just need to step back and just write it all down, and then I can see it. But yeah, having like talked through it a couple of times, that's what I see. To be sure, Clemson and or Notre Dame would have to have 3 conference losses by the time that the 12th rolls around, and I don't think that's going to happen. But hey.
Well, Notre Dame and Miami having not played, what is the tiebreaker there? Why does Notre Dame with 1 loss get the nod over Miami with 1 loss? Let's say Notre Dame loses,
because it would go down to like the next one. It would go down to the next thing. It's like, because you'd have the A beats C beat. Yeah, A beats B, B beats C, C beats A. If you would have that round table, so like Clemson beat, or like Notre Dame beat Clemson, Clemson beat us, and then we didn't play, kind of a thing. And then it would go to record, and then like team, it would then step down to the next tiebreakers.
If there's a 3-way,
they would make it happen.
If there's a 3-way tie between Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame, I can understand that, because as common opponents, Clemson's 1-1. They beat Miami. They lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 1-0. They beat Clemson. Miami's 0-1. I get
Correct.
that. All right.
Yeah. Fun with numbers. Yeah.
We're allowing teams to play games that will give them better records to have played in a conference championship game that they can't participate in, because the game in question is being played at the same time on the same day as them reaching
the same day. Like it would probably be the 3:30 game, with the ACC championship game being the 8 o'clock. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That's that's the math that I've been banding about for a while. So hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't think that we're going to play all these games to begin with. But yeah, that's what it would take for Miami to get to the ACC championship game. Again, unless I didn't carry the one or something on that math problem. But yeah.
Nate is asking, if we talk recruiting, do the Canes have a plan for the CB? Numbers wise makes me very nervous.
Does Miami have a plan at recruiting cornerbacks? I don't know.
Okay. I was like,
you know what I mean?
What am I missing there?
Yeah.
Yes. Cornerbacks. Okay.
It's tough, man. We've gone 0-4 the top level cornerbacks in South Florida since Tracy Howard in 2012 from good old Miramar High School where I used to work. You know what I mean? And since then, we've literally missed on every single one. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know where we're going to go with it. Something has to change, though. You got 5 scholarship cornerbacks on the roster. You need guys in this class. You just dropped Tim Burns Jr. Malik Curtis is going to play offense, so you don't have anybody committed to play DB. You could miscast Malik Curtis on defense if you want to, but I still think that he's a game changer at wide receiver. And it just doesn't make sense to me. You can bandy about all these names of guys: Markevious Brown from IMG, Terrion Arnold from Tallahassee, St. John Paul, I believe it is. Omarion Cooper, who's committed to Florida State. I saw somebody talking about just on the timeline a little bit ago. Hey, we're going to circle back on 5-star Jason Marshall from Palmetto. That's not going to happen. I don't think he's coming here because we ruined that one. Because it got out that he had told the staff that he was going to commit, and then he decided, okay, cool, like I can't trust y'all. It got out. I'm going to Florida. I don't know that there's a plan. If there is a plan, I don't see the plan. I don't understand the plan. And that's pretty simple. You offer the kid from Texas, Corvington, through the first part of his football season is playing really well, but Miami was first in the pool, but I don't know that we're going to be the ones that he goes with. You offer a kid from Georgia as well. Probably not going to come down. I don't see it. I don't. And I don't even see where the late cycle ad for Mike Rumpf comes from. You know what I mean? That's been there every year. I don't see it. And, because in previous years, it was like, okay, well, Miami's recruiting Javonte Dean because he was committed to Alabama, and then he flips over. Miami was already recruiting Christian Williams, and then he, again, from Alabama, flips over. Miami's already recruiting these guys, Isaiah Dunson from Florida, who was committed to Florida State, but you've already been recruiting him. Like, that's a thing. And then, okay, like you get the flip at the end and things like that. Okay, cool. I don't see it in this class. And it's really a troubling proposition. I know that there's, talk people saying, okay, well, Ephraim Bonda, the safeties coach, recruits everybody in the secondary, corners and safeties. If that's the truth, then he needs to not recruit cornerbacks because he recruits safeties to the best ability of anybody in America, and cornerbacks is terrible. So if that's the case, if Mike Rumpf is recruiting cornerbacks, the position that he coaches, then, well, first of all, if Mike Rumpf is not recruiting his own position, why is he here? If Mike Rumpf is recruiting his position and he's recruiting to this level, then he needs to go because the demonstrable job product is not good enough. And you ran off a guy like Christian Williams because whatever was going on with him. You know what I mean? It's a problem. Cornerback recruiting, openly and truly. I wrote it years ago when Craig Kuligowski was the defensive line coach that we needed to get him help on the trail because he wanted to coach and develop guys, but going out and recruiting the way that you need to at Miami, when you have Miami on your chest versus when you have Alabama on your chest, is very different. Alabama goes and selects. Miami has to go and fight. And it's a different kind of recruiting. And it wasn't going right, so I said, we'll get him some help. He leaves out. We get some other guys in there. Okay, defensive line recruiting is awesome. At a bare minimum, you have to get Mike Rumpf help. Mike Rumpf or Ephraim Bonda, whoever's recruiting quarterback. At a minimum, you got to do that. I would say obviously, but I think more likely at this point, good old number 8. We thank you for your service. We appreciate that your knee was there in 2001 when you jumped that route against Boston College that ricocheted off your leg and was caught by Matt Walters and returned by Ed Reed. But it's time to ease on down the road, buddy. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know where it comes from or where, but I'm not sure that there's a system or a plan, and a comprehensive and attainable plan of action to recruit the kind of corners and the number of corners that we need for this roster. Because point of fact, we don't have enough on this roster, period, let alone if they're good enough. We have 5 total. That's not good enough, and something has to change.
Just to bear with me for a second here, going to talk a little business for about 10 or 15 seconds. So basically, sponsorships and individual contributions are going to keep these type shows together. And so I want to recognize everybody out there, because you Miami fans, I'm going to say this flat out, and I've said this to crowds that come to the Ohio State live show, the Florida State live show, and the Nebraska live show most recently. Miami fans, you've contributed to this channel monetarily more than anybody else. So I want to thank you, recognize you, appreciate you. Absolutely. Because this is now, it's a labor of love, yes, but it's a business. And just like when you go to work, you want to get paid, we need to get paid for this. So that's going to come through individual contributions, and it's going to come through hopefully sponsorships. So if you know anybody out there that's got a business, or you yourself have a business that would benefit from the viewership that we provide, that's a very predictable and sustained, stable, and concentrated viewership that has a certain interest, like maybe collegiate apparel, I would think would be a prime. I would think there would be a prime audience here, for example. So Ronan, thank you so much for your contribution. You're consistent in that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We both do. Ronan says we'll be part of the rewatch squad, but got to show Mark and Cam support. Hope the Canes are back on the field full strength as soon as possible. This man needs football. Go Canes.
Thank you, Ronan.
Chug Mo Beer coming through. Thank you so much. Cam, what do you think has been Miami's inability to recruit elite corners and linebackers over the last several years? Let's go Canes. Great show, Mark. Hit the like button. And Chug Mo Beer, thank you.
I think it's more corners than it is linebackers, because Miami has gotten some guys. I think that the thing at linebacker was the fact that we had Quarterman and Pinckney, and to a lesser extent McLeod, in front of them, because they knew that they were not going to come here and play. That just was a simple point of fact. Miami was in it until almost the end with Justin Flo. Obviously, he decided to go to Oregon. He just tore his meniscus. He's out for the year, which is unfortunate for him. But, you're in it with him last year to try to get that going, and everything. I know Manny Diaz coached linebackers, and he was just, you're all in with Quarterman and Pinckney and McLeod. I mean, all of them started, an aggregate, 12 years, 4 for those guys. You take a red shirt for McLeod, and then he starts this year. So all 3 of them started pretty much every game that they were here. You know what I mean? And they're playing the majority of snaps too, because we didn't really, we did rotate some, and kind of stupidly, but, not too much. So, it's going to be tough because guys want to play at linebacker. And you de-emphasize that position in recruiting because you have the guys that you have here, but you do get Sam Brooks. You did get Avery Huff, who are elite prospects. I think that Deshaun Troutman is a great linebacking prospect who's not being talked about enough in this 2021 class. Corey Flagg, I think, was underrated last year. Tyreek Austin-Cave also fits what we want to do very well. But no, we have not gotten the everybody's All-American, Justin Flo, Matthew Thomas, Willie Williams even, DJ Williams, or John Beeson, or Jonathan Vilma, just a high 4-star, 5-star, everybody's All-American, first-team All-Conference, first-team All-American, 3 years in a first-round draft pick. We haven't gotten those guys. And maybe that's an impact of, Manny Diaz needing to step up his personal recruiting, and Blake Baker now being the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. So maybe there's with that. At cornerback, I just don't think that we've had I think that we've just gotten outbid for guys. And I don't think that we've had consistent relationships with the local recruits that we need to. And I think that cornerback is starting to mirror wide receiver from South Florida, where, you've had all those guys go to Alabama and, a couple to Georgia now and a couple to Clemson now and things like that. I think that you're seeing that similar kind of thing, those edge players, those elite skill guys locally. I think that just like on offense, on defense, they're starting or have been taking their talents elsewhere, unfortunately. And I think that that's twofold. One, I don't think that we have the kind of relationship to lean on with those guys. And I don't think that we have had recently the kind of product that we needed in terms of a winning program to really attract those super uber elite guys. Your Tyreek Stevensons, your Tyson Campbells, your Patrick Surtain II, those kind of dudes. I don't think that we had the traction with them. And this is, again, where I would like to see maybe somebody with increased recruiting skill at cornerback coach, because you're able to lean on that with safeties. Avante Williams, number 2 safety in America last cycle, says, look, the relationship that he had with Ephraim Banda and Manny Diaz for the 4 or 5 years that he was being recruited, that was what won him over. James Williams is talking about, look, these dudes are the same dudes that they've been ever since, I was in middle school and everything. Anytime I went to a camp, anytime anything like that, relationship is what you're really leaning on. I don't think that Miami has that with the cornerback recruits, and I don't know why. So you can maybe look to what they're doing systematically. Maybe it's the coach, whoever's recruiting them. Maybe, it's whatever they're seeing on the field. But I think that it's, the lack of a elite product and the lack of relationships with corners and at linebacker. I think it was just de-emphasized because we had 3 dudes who came in one recruiting class 5 years ago, and they ended up starting pretty much every single game that they were here over the course of that time. But I think at linebacker, we have gotten some guys. I still question what the rotation is on defense at linebacker this year, because you're not going to be bigger than people. You're going to be faster than people. So we have, guys like an Avery Huff, guys like a Sam Brooks. That's the strength of this position, and we're not leaning on it. But if you were to lean on that, I think you would see that new trend, or that the new talent on the roster is to the level that I think that we want it to be. But you're not necessarily playing them. So I would say it's more corners than linebackers, but I do see where you're coming from with linebacker, because for many years, it was 53, 55, and 56 and set it and forget it. So why would you really bring in somebody, or why would somebody uber elite come and sit behind them? Because you're going to sit.
Hurricane Speed Jr., thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Hello, Mark. Hello, Cam. Go Canes. Thank you so much. Cam, I'm looking at the big board here on the 2021 class. I'm looking at the
newly re-ranked big board.
What's that?
The newly re-ranked big board. 247 they put their new rankings, or their revised rankings up yesterday. Yep.
I did see where some people moved around. I actually have ESPN's pulled up here. It's not really mattering who it is, because right. The exercise I would love to go through, unless any other great questions pop up, is I'm going to go to every Florida product, and you give me a blurb on, of course, if Miami secured them, like a Leonard Taylor, then that's great. That's awesome. But for the ones that went elsewhere, if you've got a blurb on what happened there, and obviously you can just give us a quick nugget, or you can take off and dig into it if you'd like.
All right.
So we'll start from the top with J.C. Latham.
J.C. Latham is offensive lineman committed to Alabama from IMG Academy. Miami kicked the tires, but like most elite prospects, he said, thank you, but I'm going to take my talents elsewhere.
Then we also have Terrence Lewis.
Terrence Lewis, the transfer king of this year, the Devonair Clarington Memorial most transfers in this recruiting class guy, was at Miami Central, went to Chaminade, parted ways with Chaminade, went back to Northwestern. Now he's at Miami Central, 5-star guy, recruited, committed to Tennessee, is close friends with James Williams, who's committed to Miami. They've talked about playing together in college, so Miami is communicating with him, might try to work a flip. He may or may not do that. It might be one of those situations, and we've seen that with some other guys where, maybe getting out of South Florida would be the best thing for him. But he is a very talented kid. I do think that there might be some off-the-field things to consider, like with some other guys from down here in other recruiting classes. And I think that I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it, but you as recruiting fan and you as prospective team have to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze, if the player is worth the baggage. I can't tell you.
Dallas Turner.
St. Thomas Aquinas, he's going to Alabama. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm taking my talents to the SEC. See ya.
Mario Williams.
Mario Williams, the wide receiver from Plant City?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. He's a guy that Miami contacted earlier, like as a high school sophomore going into his junior year. But he's another guy. Is he going to Alabama now? Oklahoma. Okay, yeah, he's the Hollywood Brown kid. So yeah, he's a fast kid. He's like 6 feet tall, give or take, I want to say. But he's a speedy wide receiver, and he's going to follow that path like Hollywood Brown, who went to Chaminade, which is in the city of Hollywood, Florida. And he went to JUCO, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's Hollywood," and that's where the nickname came from. But yeah, Mario Williams is a similar type of dude. He's a big time player. He's definitely a Power 5 receiver, but he's going to Oklahoma. Excuse me.
So Xavier Sori, athlete, Bradenton, Florida, IMG is still out there.
Yeah, he's not a Florida native, I don't think, and that's the tricky thing with IMG Academy. Unless you remember where these guys are from, or like, you know, you can go onto their 247 profiles and says, okay, they're at IMG, but where were they previously? Yeah. You know, it's not a thing, you know, and that's the thing that like Bud Elliott's been talking about for years. Like IMG Academy kids go to school in Florida, but they're not necessarily Floridians, you know, in terms of recruitment. A lot of these guys go back to their home areas of the country for college. I'm not sure where Story's from.
Okay. I'm not going to look into it.
Yeah.
Or I may while you're commenting on somebody else. Do you know where J.J. McCarthy is? He's another IMG Academy commit to Michigan.
J.J. McCarthy, he's a quarterback. He's from Colorado or something like that. And yeah, he was committed to Michigan from there and then took his talents down there. But he's not. I know for a fact McCarthy's not a Floridian. He's a transplant. You know, and it's very similar to the kids who go to Oak Hill Academy for basketball, you know, up there in the DMV area. Yeah, they just go, they come from wherever, you know, it's an elite, you know, boarding school, you know, basically football or sports factory kind of thing, you know, prep school specifically designed for that. And then they go elsewhere, you know, for college. So, I mean, yeah, they do that and they live in, you know, at the IMG Academy and they do the things like that. But again, a lot of them are not actually Floridians.
James Williams coming to Miami.
Absolutely.
Jason Marshall, cornerback, Miami Palmetto, going to Florida.
5-star cornerback. Everybody's All-American. Told the staff that he was coming earlier this year, but basically was pretty strong on like, don't let that out and everything. And they started tweeting about it, and then it got out. And then that was, you know, one of the, you know, Manny Diaz, wait for it or something good's about to happen tweets. And then that actually pissed in the punch, as it were. And then he went to Florida. Now, some people are going to say, okay, he pimped Miami for an extra bag from Florida, or he actually pimped Miami to get the offer that he wanted. I don't believe that. I firmly believe from everything that I've seen and heard that he was coming to Miami, and then basically blew that. So.
Based on the bio, Ja'Cory Brooks actually is from Bradenton and also IMG Academy, if I've got that correct. No, nope.
That's a lie. Ja'Cory Brooks is from the city. He went to Booker T. Washington for 3 years. Number one wide receiver, you know, potential. But yeah, he played like, you know, yeah, Overtown. He lived like down at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like he went to Booker T. And then he transferred over there. So that's a mislisting by ESPN. He's a Miami kid, and he's the latest South Florida wide receiver who's going to take his talents to Alabama. Because, you know, yeah.
I'll probably butcher the first name. Agiye Hall.
Agiye Hall from Tampa.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. It's a blue team. Armwood, Sefner Armwood. Where's he going?
He's going to Alabama.
Agiye Hall is going to Alabama. That's right. He was the first one of those dudes. He's a monster. If he gets his head right and everything, he's one of the most explosive wide receivers around. But Sefner Armwood, that's a program that Miami has really struggled to get any foothold recruiting from. It's one of the best programs in the state of Florida. They run a really, really good high school football program over there. They've competed for it and won state championships that's a school name that you should know. And they've had lots of top level recruits as well. Armwood has, but yeah, he's going to Alabama.
Bryce Langston from Ocala is still on a list.
Bryce
still
Langston,
not committed.
Ocala Vanguard, right?
Yes.
That's the school at which N'Kosi Perry once starred. Bryce Langston was committed to Florida. Miami was also recruiting him for a while. And then he committed to Florida and everything. He is a defensive lineman who is out there on the board. I'm not sure that Miami's realistically an option for him, but he is a Power 5 kind of a guy. So you could see him maybe going back to Florida or another SEC team.
So we're around number 63 in the country, but we've got a comment here. Have you looked at the 2022 class? James Scott is asking about Shamar Stewart.
I have not looked extensively at the 2022 class. But if you start at the top, the number one player in America is Shamar Stewart. I mean, he's a monster. He's been this size for years. I mean, he was a freshman at Pace, and he was already 6'5", 210 pounds as a defensive end. I mean, he's going to be – I mean, he's just – yeah, he's like that. He's going to be a top 5, 10 player in this class coming up. He's already, 6'5", 6'6", 230 pounds. I mean, and probably getting a little bit bigger by the day. This is a kid who's destined for an NFL roster as long as he doesn't mess around or get injured. There's not much to say like, okay, well, here's my take on Shamar Stewart. My take on Shamar Stewart is he's a massive, massive player, and he's incredible at football.
Brandon Jennings is going all the way up to Michigan from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, his brother's on our roster, Bradley Jennings Jr., number 44. His father, Bradley Jennings, is from Miami but went to Florida State back in the 90s. And then like Devin Bush, whose father played at Florida State, and then he went to high school down here at Flanagan, which is its own thing, but whatever. He went to Michigan, and so too is the younger Jennings brother, who I believe is the higher ceiling prospect between the two brothers of in that family. But yeah, he was committed to Florida State, dropped them, and then flipped to Michigan either that same day or the day after, a few weeks ago. But yeah, he's going up to Big Ten country to play for Big Blue.
Few more to close out the top 100. Athlete Christian Leary from Edgewater High School in Orlando, going to Alabama.
One of the fastest players that you'll see in America. He's like a Malik Curtis, but a little bit faster, like a Brashard Smith, but a little bit bigger and similar kind of speed. Just looks like he's playing in fast forward. You can't teach that kind of speed. And there's a handful of dudes in America who can run that fast and play that well. And yeah, Leary is near the top of that list, and he's going to Alabama.
That name should have caught my attention because I had an Alabama guy on last night, and I asked him about the most exciting guy in their 2021 class, and bam, that's who we went with.
Thanks.
Cade Denhoff, going from Lakeland Christian High School defensive end to Clemson.
Yeah, not the super high-end talent that Clemson gets all of the time, but he's a solid 4-star guy. He's not really a guy that's been on Miami's radar, so I didn't really look into him too much. It seemed to me early on that he was going elsewhere. But yeah.
Corey Collier got away, Miami Palmetto to the University of Florida.
Corey Collier, who's a Florida State legacy, his father of the same name played at Florida State. Teammates in the secondary with Jason Marshall at Palmetto. Also teammates with Brashard Smith, Leonard Taylor, and Savion Collins in the Palmetto 5 that we've talked about, we've written about, and things like that. And he's going to Florida. So the two of them are in the secondary from Palmetto are going up there, while the other 3 currently are committed to Miami. So, it's a solid BB plus for Miami right now, getting 3 of those 5. The home run would have been to get, any 4 of those 5. I think that Miami fumbled the bag by letting, Marshall get away from where things were. But yeah, you got Collier and Marshall going up there because Florida recruits defensive backs unlike anyone else. And then, yeah, Pat Payton. See, Dennis Lopez, you might be right. Patrick Payton, defensive end from Miami Northwestern, is having a breakout senior season. He actually was one of the highest risers in 247's re-rankings. He went from a mid 3-star to a solid 4-star level prospect. He's really getting after it off the edge, and everything. So he's a guy that Miami could go get. He's committed to Nebraska right now with his play and everything. I think that he's played himself off of their out of their stratosphere. To be perfectly honest, whether that's Miami or whether that's elsewhere, it remains to be seen. But Patrick Payton does seem like he's a guy that, if you're trying to say, okay, we're trying to keep some of the best guys from, South Florida around, he has to be in the conversation. The thing about it is spots are limited. So, did you drop Tim Burns to take Payton from the same school? So you'd have, 3 or 4 dudes from Northwestern, but the 3 or 4 dudes would then have changed because obviously you dropped Burns and the other one, somebody else. They dropped from there already. And then you get Patrick Payton in that class with Brinson, the tight end, and Cam Kinchins, Khalil Brantley. Sorry. We'll see what the numbers are looking like. And hey, maybe the NCAA says every team can bring in 25 or 30 this year because, coronavirus, which is a, ongoing thing. P.S. By the way, the NCAA just extended the dead period till tax day, April 15th. So it will be, I think, 13 or 14 months of a dead period. So this entire cycle will have existed in a dead period, and then some. Which is crazy. But I mean, what are you going to do? You got to do something. You can't just say, okay, campuses are open for people to go to and everything, which So I saw somebody hopped in my mentions after I tweeted, they're like, oh, how's Miami going to do this? How's the NCAA? I'm like, bro, it's an everybody thing. It's not like a sanction on Miami. Miami's in a dead period while everybody else is live. Everybody's in a dead period. It's one of the things.
And just to slip slightly out of the top 100 ESPN, just to give a little kudos to, of course, Jacoby George, who has committed to Miami at number 101.
Yeah, Jacoby George, he's a kid who doesn't do much media or anything like that, but all he does is go and make plays, man. Plays at Plantation High School, had over 1,000 yards receiving last year, which it seems like, okay, that's nothing, or whatever. But I mean, in high school football, with the nature of passing games and things like that, having 12 or 1,300 yards like he had is a lot. It really is. And you're going to get a lot of that on bombs. You're going to get a lot of that on yards after the catch because you're not going to – it's not a pro-style passing game. Plus, the pass protection is not going to always be there at the high school level. So you got to get creative in how you get your guys the ball. And, when he gets the ball, man, he makes plays. And I think that he's the forgotten guy in this receiving class because you have Romello Brinson, everybody talks about. You have Brashard Smith, everybody talks about. Other guy there is Jacoby George. He's damn good, man.
The nerd in me wants to go through the entire list, come up with some kind of point system, and rate them in regards to state origin and then also destination in terms of the college destination.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much come up with what everybody knows anyway. Texas, Florida, and California have most of the players, and they're going to all the schools that we know.
Right. Pretty much.
Good stuff. All right, Cam Underwood, State of the U. Hope you all, and I know that most of you do, value what he brings to the table here each and every week. Cam, appreciate it. Certainly let us know what's on State of the U.
Yeah, man. We're just working through this coronavirus situation, so we're kind of stepping back, obviously, because we don't have any game week content to talk about right now. So, we're looking at some other things and talking about some other situations, and just diving deep into the games that have been played and looking at some other things. So we got that going on. Basketball's ramping up, so Wyatt Koppelman and John Reynolds are taking the lead on that for men's and women's basketball. So hopefully we have that starting up soon in the beginning of December, as well. And then, I got to get started on these recruiting notebooks because it's a month till early signing day, and that apparently is still going to happen. So I got to get in the lab with that and, some other things as well. So we're working on some things over there. So stateoftheu.com. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal account is at Underwood Sports, where I tweet lightly about sports and a lot more about reality television and video games. But, it's all good fun, so come on over.
Yeah, 4 weeks from last night. There we go. Wednesday will be National Signing Day.
Wow.
All right. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That just lets me know that I got to request that off from the secret day job. Got it.
I'll be here all day just talking to whomever will show up to talk about their big classes. All right. Good stuff. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Cam.
No problem, guys. We'll see you.